Hey, what's up? It's about 12:45 Central Time here, August 10th, 2020. Uh, the latest news report today is apparently the Big Ten has more or less going to cancel their 2020 football season. I think the Pac-12 is also considering to postpone it or cancel it. I haven't really heard. I think the SEC and other conferences are actually delaying theirs. They're actually waiting to the end of the September uh, till they get international conference play before they start. Uh, the season. But I think for the most part, there's not going to be a 2020 football season for college football. So we ought to just get used to it right now. And it's August 10th, and I think the sooner people get used to the idea, the faster we're going to get over this COVID-19 pandemic here in America. And I'm from Georgia, and Georgia schools have some of them have already gone back, and it only took them 1 week, and they got kids who are already tested positive. And I know it has to do with foosball because I am from Georgia, and that's what people live for this time of year. It's not about getting the kids back in school, getting them back in learning, getting them back amongst their friends, and all that mumbo jumbo. It's about getting people back on the football field so they can go out and score touchdowns and have the school all rah-rah-ree and have the scouts out there looking for them. I mean, don't give me this horse shit about how distance learning and all this other stuff. Teachers last year, with a little moment's notice, were able to come out and teach the students through distance learning, put together a game plan to finish out that school year. It's not about education. It's never been about education. It's about sports. And this should be the come to Jesus moment here in America, in which we really think, what is more important right now, an education or sports? Sports are very dangerous to kids and young people, and really don't amount to anything at the end of the day. Now, I know a lot of y'all say, well, you just don't like sports. Well, that's kind of true. But I have a very good reason for not liking sports because I actually went to a school in which more emphasis was put on sports and then education. And I understand that it's still happening now that they've had certain changes in administration and teachers over the years. I used to work somewhat as a sports reporter in two newspapers, and the way people act is just so outrageous. I mean, I could print a story about some guy who molested an old woman while, doing the most unspeakable things to dogs. And it would still not get as much negative feedback as reporting a story in which a football team lost a game. I mean, these fucking people are vicious whenever a football team loses, and the nerve of a news reporter to actually report that they lost is so crazy. I mean, and I know what it is people my age, in their early 40s, late 30s, they're going through a midlife crisis in which they're like me, I'm, a heavyset guy, and, I'm probably not going to be able to do a lot of things I used to do when I was younger, but that comes with the territory. I mean, I know that already. And I think a lot of these people, they push their kids, their grandkids, the neighbors' kids, and a lot of it, and just people in general, because they want to relive that glory of having a championship game, having a great season, and and that's really not what it's about for these kids, because they have got to do more than that, because a lot of young kids, that's all they live for. And unfortunately, I know a lot of teachers and administrators would probably say the same thing. If we didn't have extracurricular sports in our school districts and our systems, there would be a lot of kids who would not show up. I mean, I'll be blunt. I think a lot of parents would pull their kids out of school, and we wouldn't have a major drop in enrollment across the board all over America for a lot of young people who are not interested in learning certain things. They only want to live for football. They only want to live for baseball. They only want to live for basketball, track, whatever you call it. And what's so funny is I've interviewed these kids. I covered them. They are, for lack of a better word, not bright. And I realize this is their only chance at any type of achievements. And I think that's very sad that we force that upon them. We give them this only option they have is to run a football or hit a ball with a bat or put a ball in a basket. So it's just crazy that that's why I think there's been such a big push to get school back going so quickly. Well, one of the reasons I think it's also because they also want to act like it doesn't exist. This COVID-19 thing that doesn't exist, or it's not as major as it is. And I keep hearing people say, "Well, what about sex trafficking? What about child trafficking?" That's not even the same thing. All right, you're like the All Lives Matters people. You're acting like oh my God, there's a 10-car pileup on the interstate. Oh, what about this double homicide going on in two other towns over? It's not the same thing. Both are very bad. Both need attention. But calm the fuck down. We'll deal with child sex trafficking and COVID-19 at the same time. And it doesn't matter. Don't say this shit about child sex trafficking because y'all the same motherfuckers who keep whining a year after it happened that Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. Who cares if he didn't kill himself? He's dead. One less sexual pervert we have in this country, in this world's best. And I really do think Epstein did kill himself because I covered a lot of cases in which people have committed these awful acts against children. And when you go to prison, when you go to jail, you pretty much have a big target on you. I mean, I think it's just silly that people seem to think, well, because Epstein was a big, highfalutin guy and he had all these powerful people, somebody just paid to kill him off. Well, no. But anyway, back to this COVID-19 thing, back to the sports thing, is that, have you ever been to a high school football game? Really, have you ever been? It doesn't matter if the team sucks big green donkey dicks. There are going to be hundreds of people at the sporting event, regardless, because it is the most social event of the week for them. I mean, these people have devolved into a monotonous way of life that these few hours on a Friday night are what they live for. And in my opinion, the most grossest thing in the world is football stands after not one of the grossest things, but one of the grossest things in the world is the football stands after a game ends. I mean, just beyond filthy. And even eating the concession food is probably the most filthiest thing in the world. I mean, I love pizza, I love hot dogs, I love hamburgers. I don't really love them produced in mass quantities. And because it's still summertime when all these football games happen, they turn on the stupid lights, and it's like a plague of locusts are just all over these lights. So you can't eat anything, you can't drink anything without getting flies and bugs and all the stuff all around your food. People are coughing on your food, people are sneezing on your food. You don't even know if the people making the concession stands are even washing their hands. And I guarantee you, most of them aren't. I've worked in concession stands before. I did it in high school when I was trying to get community service for the National Honor Society. You would not believe the food they try to sell to people. Let me give you a couple for instances. You'll never eat nacho cheese after at a concession stand after listening to this. I was helping my mom out. She was an official with the band boosters, and we would sometimes work at the basketball games. Well, they were making the cheese in a crock pot, and they had like the little glass top you put on top of it. Well, I guess the heat and something happened. Anyway, one of the people went to take it off, and it just shattered. You know, this person, thank God she wasn't cut. No glass went anywhere, but it all went in the cheese. And we had to throw out that cheese. I mean, we couldn't like dip out the glass because a little bitty shard of glass, little bitty shard of glass. If somebody had ate that, oh my God, can you imagine what would happen to their insides? I mean, talk about a lawsuit. Talk about uh, uh, danger. So we had to throw out that whole thing of cheese. No questions asked. Just dump it out. Clean out the crock pot, and start from scratch. And I'm just wondering if other people working concession stands out there would make that same choice. I don't know. And another time, I was there helping out some other people. They had a tournament usually around Christmas time, finals week, Christmas time. And this guy I'd known all my life, he just walks right in, doesn't say anything, goes toward one of the freezers or refrigerators. I think it was a freezer. Well, obviously, it was a freezer. Could have been a refrigerator. I don't know. It's been like 25 years. And he takes out this huge stack of hot dog weenies. That must have been about 3 or 4 dozen there. Turns around, goes out, and just throws them in the trash. And then he comes back and says, "Oh, thank God. I've been worried about that." Those hot dog weenies had been in the freezer since the end of the previous season, which was about February, March. So we're talking about 10 months that these hot dog weenies were in a freezer refrigerator. And no one bothered to do anything with them in the meantime. I mean, they could have very easily have cooked them at a cookout in the spring or whatever. But imagine if somebody had taken those hot dog weenies, boiled them or cooked them or whatever, and served them. You imagine the food poisoning those poor people would have gotten from eating that stuff? I mean, it's just illogical to think, of what, you need to be careful about who handles your food, and especially, I think, a lot of football games, a lot of booster clubs now, they partner with places like Pizza Hut, Domino's, Papa John's, to deliver the food, the pizza, but I just think, having a football game, even on the sidelines, football teams have at least a few dozen people, cheerleaders, usually about a dozen cheerleaders. Of course, it's the South, so you're looking at about half a dozen to 10 football coaches, half a dozen officials, trainers, managers, alumni who are, trying to relive their old glory, sitting on the football sidelines, photographers, reporters, me and myself. Just us there. If there was nobody in the stands, that is a lot of people in close proximity who could. I'm sorry, that's my washer there, if you can hear it. It's on the spin cycle. But that's a lot of people who are in close proximity to each other, and only a handful of those could have symptoms, but everyone can be spread out because you're huddled together. And if you ever covered football, there's a line. You're supposed to stand behind the line. Football players are supposed to be in that little box area. So, what somebody might think is just a cold is they could spread it to the whole football team. The whole football, and if a lot of football team members get sick, they're going to have to cancel the season anyway. A team at a school I covered had a problem where they couldn't keep enough players on the team. It was a very small school, and they just couldn't keep people on the team. They had to forfeit a lot of games, and eventually they just had to dissolve the football program altogether because they couldn't get enough players. And I think that's what we're going to come to, because we need to start taking this more seriously. And I think that a lot of people are angry because they're not seeing their sporting events. Well, it's not about you. It's about the people who are out there playing, because even if they only have minor symptoms, they're going to go see their home. They live with their parents. I'm pretty sure maybe their grandparents live with them in some cases. They're going to go to church. They're going to do all this other stuff. And we just really just need to just say, okay, is it really worth it so a bunch of sports fanatics can have their own little few months or of just excitement? Is it really worth it? Thousands of people getting sick and dying? Because apparently for a lot of y'all, it isn't worth it. Y'all are acting like, okay, I want to see football. I want to see baseball. And I don't care who dies. Well, what if, God forbid, the players get sick and die? They're not immune to all this. I mean, famous celebrities have passed away from COVID-19. So it isn't like, no matter what health care they have, how much money they have, or how much a good program the school has to combat COVID-19, people will still get it. And I think asking people to go to sporting events, which ironically are paid with taxpayer dollars, which you are paying to get into, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's a whole different subject. We really just need to feel that this year, sports, not going to happen, so let's just knock it off. So, and I think the sooner we come to that reality, the sooner we're going to get through all this. And unfortunately, it's going to take, sadly, it's going to take a lot more people getting sick and a lot more people dying before a lot of you out there will ever care about it. And only until it hits personally at home with you is when y'all kind of think that maybe y'all should have done a few things differently.